Hello there, it's Cassie. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I am going to be making some alcohol inked backgrounds. And I'm starting with some heavyweight vellum, and I'm also going to be using some 91% isopropyl alcohol to get my inks moving. And I'm going to just douse that paper pretty much with that alcohol. And I am using stone-washed alcohol ink along with a gold mixative, which I won't use on this first one. I'm going to use it on the second one. All right, now you see I am using that heat tool. I think I discovered something in the process of moving these alcohol inks with that heat tool. It might not be the best idea that I do that. So I didn't realize it right away, but the very next day or later on that afternoon, I had a bit of a sore throat. Now, keep in mind, these alcohol inks, they are flammable, but they're also an irritant. So they do have irritant properties in them. So that may have contributed, I'm assuming that is what contributed to me having a bit of a sore throat. So I'm going to look for something different in the heating process. Maybe not to heat, but to move the inks around. I'm going to look for either a cheap hair dryer that only has a cool setting, or that I can use the cool setting. And I also purchased a mask. So from now on, when I use these alcohol inks, because it's a subtle effect, obviously, the irritant and the possibility of causing some sort of chest issues, but I don't want to deal with that on a regular basis. So I picked up a mask that I have coming because I love working with the alcohol inks. I'm not going to stop doing that, but I don't want to cause any health problems in the future. So I am definitely going to possibly look into getting some sort of a different tool to move them around, because I really like this effect almost more than using a straw. All right, so now that I got that out of the way, I am continuing to use the alcohol inks, and I have added that gold mixative into this one. Now I know that this gold mixative isn't going to move around great. I noticed that if I put it directly into that isopropyl alcohol that I put down first, that it will move better. But it's a mixative and it has mica powders in it, so it's obviously not going to move as well. And I'm just going to keep trying to get that to move around. So I keep using the alcohol, and I keep using the stone-washed alcohol ink along with tiny bits of the mixative. You don't want to go too crazy with the mixative because it definitely can overtake your piece. But I am, being pretty liberal with my alcohol ink itself. And again, moving it around with the heat tool. So because I love the effect that this gives, I think it moves it beautifully. Even, like I said, even more so than when I do use the air gun or the air compressor or a spritzer. I think I'm going to look into something like that, because the spritzer gives these like little harsh sprays, whereas the tool, the air itself, just moving it, gives it a little bit more of a subtle, softer vibe. So I really do like the way that looks. So again, if you're going to do something like this, maybe don't use a heat tool. Do it in a very well ventilated area and get yourself a mask. So I will have the mask that I purchased linked down below if that's something that you potentially want to look into if you have alcohol inks. And I'm just cleaning up my area. I'm doing this over my Tim Holtz glass media mat. This thing is amazing for cleanup when it comes to the alcohol inks. Any other surface, you are going to stain it. But because this is glass, it's very easy to clean up. You will see that I spritz it with water here in a little bit after I do one more, just trying to get that gold to move just a little bit more. And I'm not as successful, so I like the way this one looks. I think the gold bits in there are really pretty, but yeah, I need to find a better way. So I'll keep experimenting with that. So anyway, here I am just spritzing water all over that glass mat, the glass media mat, and it is wiping up super easy using my micropore towel. I love the combination of these, especially if you're, like I said, using alcohol inks, because any other surface they would most likely stain. And so those are what the two backgrounds look like. Aren't those beautiful? That heavyweight vellum along with those alcohol inks is just a gorgeous combination. So moving on to the image that I used, this is from Waffle Flower. This is the My Sunshine stamp set. I got this in a haul a while back. I think I got this stamp set for like 99 cents. I will have it linked down below if I can find it. And I am inking that up with Memento Tuxedo black ink, and I am stamping that down onto some Express It cardstock. The Express It cardstock and the Memento Tuxedo Black ink work very well for Copic coloring. And I've said this before, I really like the Express It simply because of the way that the alcohol ink markers that I use, which are Copics, layer on top of them. So this is a very shiny paper, a very stark white paper, and the colors don't really absorb into it too much. And so I have sped up my coloring about 4 times because there's really nothing earth-shattering about my coloring. I only use roughly 2 colors for most of it, or, you know, for the yellows. So I've got the the Y35 along with the Y26, and I'm just not doing anything real crazy. So once I'm done with those, I'm going to move on to the browns in the center, which is the E57 along with the E49. I'll blend that out. And then I will move on to the stems, which is the YG63 and the YG67. And then for my banner, I'm just using the T1 along with the T3. Very good neutral color there. And then I will blend that out once again with the T1. And then I will fussy cut the images out. I also used my Favorite Things Wonky Stitch Circle Stacks die on some gold cardstock that I had. I think I had gotten this gold in a previous Hero Arts kit, so I don't think that gold paper is actually available anymore. And I have some navy cardstock from my stash, and I am stamping my sentiment using Versamark ink onto that cardstock. These are the last 2 sentiments that come in the set. They are My Only Sunshine and You Make Me Happy When Skies Are Gray. And so I've stamped that, and then I've covered that with the Simon Says Stamp Gold Ultrafine Embossing Powder, and then I'm just going to heat that till it is smooth and melted with my heat tool. And you can see it changing color there. That's how you know that it is melted. And then I'm going to trim those down. I decided to use or cut a little fish banner on both ends of my first sentiment, and that's the My Only Sunshine sentiment. And I do it on both strips of the sentiment, and the other 2 I leave the way they are because they're going to go on the inside of the card. And to assemble my card, I know this is vellum, and I've talked about how vellum isn't really great with different adhesives, but because this is a heavyweight vellum and that background is a fairly busy background, I went ahead and gave it a shot with the liquid adhesive, and you cannot tell that I use liquid adhesive. So I do it again with the blue, and once again when I put that down on my white card bases, you can't tell that I used any sort of adhesive back there. I'm going to adhere the little partial wonky stitched circles using some liquid glue once again, because I plan to use some dimension on my image itself and on the first sentiment that I use on the outside. So I've covered those with the Scotch foam tape all over the back, and I'm just pulling off that release paper. And then I'll stick it down, and then I will pull off the release paper of my sentiment, and I will grab my T-ruler to make sure that I get things on there straight. And then I will do the other one the exact same way, and then I'll just adhere the sentiment to the inside just using that same liquid glue. And then for a final bit of embellishment, I am going to grab some Nuvo Crystal drops in the color Bright Gold. And I'm just going to put a few little drops on the front of my card. Just to kind of tie it all in. And I loved the blue and the gold together. It made me think of Kansas. We used to live in Kansas, and I loved Kansas. But, you know, they're the sunflower state, I believe. Anyway, I'm going to tap that down to make sure that that gold just kind of flattens out a little bit so that they look more like enamel dots. And that'll finish off these 2 cards. So I'd love to know what you think. Do you use alcohol inks? Have you found that they're an irritant? What do you do to prevent that? I would love to know. So anyway, if you liked this video, hit the like button. If you are not a subscriber, please consider doing it. And as always, guys, thanks for stopping by.